here I find a man who is taking beautiful pictures of UFOs. He's got one arm. He lost one in an accident, and he can only do this with one arm. He's taking these marvelous pictures with good scenes that look like somebody posed the ships and everything else. And the composition was even good. They were marvelous pictures. And he didn't know anything about photography. He's using a broken camera. And I'm thinking, he's getting some help someplace. But I took the pictures. I brought them home from that trip, and I started looking for somebody to do some analysis on them. I knew that Ground Saucer Watch was testing pictures and claimed they had a way to do this. So I went to Ground Saucer Watch first. They didn't have time to mess with me. They looked at them and said, yeah, they're fakes. And I thought, well, they don't know enough about them, or they wouldn't be saying that. So we started looking for somebody with an open mind. And we were looking for, we had other evidence too at the time. I had a piece of metal, I had a number of things, and we were looking for a scientist who had an open mind, probably a cross-disciplinary scientist that wasn't locked into peer pressure in any particular field. And we found this in the case of Mr. Jim Dilatoso. Didn't even have a degree. But Jim Dilatoso had gone to school until he was 28 years old. He had gone to college long enough to have gotten a half a dozen degrees if he had decided to specialize in anything and wrote the papers. But he liked going to school. He was what we call a professional student. He liked going to school. His family could afford it. He just kept going to college, taking more subjects. He'd taken all the electives, and I was taking all the sciences. And so when we started talking to Dilatoso and trying to figure out how are we going to get a hold of this, how are we going to analyze this material, he said, well, let's start with the experts. So he went to Ground Saucer Watch and talked to them, asked them how they were doing this. We found that they were bootlegging their time on a computer, an old computer with a minimum 5-micron window, which is big for a computer. And the computer was one that was used to analyze flaws in castings for jet engines. And they were doing it at night on that computer, and they were using 4 steps that didn't show them anything. So Dilatoso immediately recognized that this is not scientific. They're eyeballing it and making the computer say what they want it to say, and then writing up a little story describing what was going on and getting away with it. So we talked to Bill Spaulding's second-hand man, asked him if we could get a look at the equipment. So we did, and we found out that it was manufactured by Spatial Data Systems at Goleta, California. So we went out to Spatial Data Systems to find out what they knew about the system, and they said, oh yeah, this system, they came out here and looked at it. They said a man came in here and looked over our equipment and gave us this 4-point program for analysis. He gave us a name, it's a very famous name today in UFO research. But they said that what we really needed to do was find out a way to do what we wanted to do, that the procedure that was being used wasn't the best. We said, well, can you demonstrate it? So they went to their showroom where they had a new model of the same equipment that was being used by Air Research in Phoenix, and they took the shade off from a lamp on a table, turned the 100-watt bulb over the picture we laid on the table, picked up a Panasonic home video, about a $1,200 job, and holding it by hand like this, shot the picture to get it into memory and then transferred that to the computer, and then that's what they analyzed. Well, right away they lost everything because they didn't have a stable mount. They were holding it by hand. They had incandescent light, 100 watts, and it was reflected from a thing on a table. There was no light table. There was no filters. The resolution on the camera itself was so bad it couldn't have shown anything anyway. So we thought, gee whiz, what are we up against here? This is no way to test anything. We've got to find a better way. So the people at Goleta said, go over to JPL. They're the ones that are making these beautiful pictures from this fuzzy image data that's coming back from the satellites, and maybe they can tell you how to do it. So we did. We went over to JPL.